Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you. Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 64. There are not one but two Ghost Machine titles with releases on this very day. So we are excited to return to you with yet another deep dive double feature. We'll be making a foray back into the horror verse, as well as one of the family odysseys. I'm Nick, and as usual, I'm joined by my better half, Snoggle. We were out last week for the first break we've taken since launching the show over a year ago. My dear, how does it feel to be back?
Feels good to be back, as you know, but I will tell the listeners I cracked a tooth, so I'm in a smidgen of pain, but feels great to be back. It was nice to have a break with the family, and now we're doing what we love.
Yep, we had a wedding to attend and a summer vacation type of deal with the little man. So thanks to everybody there for your patience with us while we were off for a week. As usual, we have a shout out. Now this time it's going out to someone who has sent us many a hashtag and an @ or whatever else the kids say about Instagram and the other things. And that's Thing Comics on Instagram. He's from Finland. He's always putting out all these videos with the cool accent and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very often about Ghost Machine and other comic book stuff too. But very often about Ghost Machine, a lot of Rook Exodus stuff. Just want to recognize him for always beating the Ghost Machine drum. You know, that really helps every fan that does that with some content out there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So if you look him up on Instagram, the handle is all one word, Thing Comics. And then the name is in there as Thing Space Comics. And it looks like he has a YouTube channel as well. So check that out. But yeah, fun channel, fun content, lots of Ghost Machine stuff. Keep it up, man. Keep fighting the good fight. But enough about overseas Ghost Machine fans, because Snoggle's back in the newsroom.
I am back in the newsroom. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, which is the release date for the Rocketfellers number 6 and Hyde Street number 7. Both of which we will be deep diving into today. And also don't forget that the Rook Exodus Volume 1, the Deluxe hardcover, is also available for pre-order. And that comes out in November, just in time for Turkey Day.
That is true. Big, heavy, deluxe edition.
Shiny.
Shiny? Yeah. It'll be shiny. It'll be wrapped up all nice and fresh, as they say. Definitely a great early Christmas present for any Ghost Machine fan that you're going to run into at Thanksgiving. But you can pre-order those now. That's one of those deluxe hardcovers I could see selling out. And I'm not saying that because I do a podcast about Ghost Machine. That's one of those where I could see people being like, woo, they swoop that up. Because people want more Rook Exodus as soon as possible, for sure. But people are really patient with, the next chapter taking a few minutes before it's totally done. So I can see everybody jumping on that and it outselling on the pre-order level or something like that. Something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
I would not be surprised either.
And so those two books are what comes out today. And that means we got to talk about the covers for these two comic books so that you know what you're looking at if you haven't picked them up yet. Now, this time is our first double deep dive about two different series. So we can't do the cover rundowns back to back. We're going to start with the Rocketfellers, number 6. I like all these covers, very cool. If you remember, typically when Francis Manapul does a cover, or often even some of the issues, he does pencils, inks, and colors. And that is the case with the A cover in this one. It has this really neat, the family's in the eye that's also got the bird clutching it type of deal with Raina in the background. What did you think of that design?
Spooky.
Spooky and foreshadowing the story. We've talked a lot about how almost always the A covers seem to tie into the plot, guaranteed. Well, as
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the case with the others. So definitely a triumph for Mr. Manipool. This might be my top for his covers, one of my top ones. I just think it's really neat because it's like summarizing basically the whole premise of the story. The bird's got the eyeball, the family's able to be, we don't really know yet, like kind of thing. We're going to talk about it, able to be seen through the eyeball. And then behind it all is Darth Reyna.
Darth Reyna, stop.
Speaking of Darth Reyna, the B cover by German Peralta is super cool.
Yeah, I think that one looks really cool because it kind of looks like they're using the van to space travel, and she's like getting them.
Well, she is trying to find them in the time stream and pluck them from it in all reality, right? So that's a very artistic and cool way of showing that in this B cover.
But you know what? I love this C cover so much by Sean von Gorman.
You mean friend of the show, Sean von Gorman.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's so cute. I mean, I love it. I would have a poster board size of that and like frame it.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a lot about Mr. Sean von Gorman in this episode of the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast because he does some art for the other book that we're going to talk about too. But yeah, did you notice how it does say there's a bumper sticker underneath the license?
Yeah. My other car is a time machine or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know what you call the style, but this bumper sticker of a family style, like you see a lot of people dressed up in like little Star Wars. It started many years ago, just like as people, and now it's usually people as characters, and it's the whole family. And I like how Grandma is still there. But Reyna doesn't make the cut, even though she's related. I'd almost say, from a collector's standpoint, grab those Von Gorman books. Pedestrian just got nominated for an Eisner, man. Like you gotta get in there and do that. Grab those. It's just a really cool book cover as well. So you know what covers are available to you if you have not read the Rocketfellers #6 up until this point. This is your official moment where you must pause for spoilers. And we're back.
You got the like movie phone voice. Welcome to a world.
In a world where a family goes back hundreds of years to survive, Snoggle will give us a creator roll call.
Oh, okay. I can do that. So we've got Peter Tomasi, story and like the words. Francis Manipool, story and the art. Rob Lee, our king of letters. That's the three, the dynamic three on this book. I like how, so this starts out and there's somebody watching the family. And I will say, until you get to the end of this, you can tell he's in the dark. Because I'm like, is that a monster?
Right.
Why are his hands so pale? You know? And then it's just obvious he's, for some reason, in the dark watching his neighbors.
And this is something I'm going to talk about a little bit extra on this particular issue. I've been waiting, Ghost Machine fans, for the neighbor to either matter or the circumstances around the neighbor that are humorous to escalate. And we kind of get both in this issue. And the reason I say that is the person in the dark, who he knows in the dark because we can see the hand. It's really subtle. It's a good point. We can see a hand holding like blinds to the side in the dark and like looking out at what's going on. He's watching the Rockefeller family, and then we see him frontwise. And it's just like, oh, we've been wondering this whole time about that Mr. Martinez guy. And if he's like malicious or sneaky or an alien or a robot or a time cop, I don't know. And I really like what was revealed about him here. But that's not for a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's not for a bit. I feel like Mr. Rockefeller was drawn for the ladies.
You're talking about Mr. Rockefeller, like the first panel you see him is Roland Rockefeller looking underneath the bed for the
Yep.
eye.
Yeah. A
So
little bit of stubble, mustache.
you hear
He's
that,
giving
Francis?
dad energy.
Dad energy. That's exactly what they're going for, I think, is dad energy. So we'll take it. Very like Clark Gable dad energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what? So yeah, that's great. You swoon for Roland, and what's Roland doing though? He's been a good dad,
Um,
kind
he's
of mad scientist, good dad.
well, he's looking for something. He's in her room and looking at her drawings because she's known to draw things either from the future or past. And then, like, one of her little birds has the eye. But then while he's in there, she shoots up and she says, "Our tree! I see our tree!"
And he's seen the eye. He's also noticed they make a point of showing you that she doodles some of Raina because there's a doodle of
Uh-huh.
Raina. Raina being her family member who has been pursuing them and is also employed by Kronex. But he finds the eye. Now, up until this point, the eye was like this valuable thing. Everything was hinged on protecting the eye, and we didn't really know exactly what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. And so he definitely seems like he needs to find it, but his like level of urgency in the room before he finds it is kind of like more like the keys or maybe the remote. It's not more like we're protecting this thing at all costs. And it just made me curious because when he does see it, he still is like, "Oh, okay, it's there. That's good." And then he addresses what's going on with Ray, which sounds like she's seeing visions of the future in her dreams, maybe, and or like as she's waking up too, like lucid dreams or whatever they call that. And then also stuff in the present as a result of that discussion, like she mentions a couple of really, really ominous things, like as if she can see the state of things in the future, like their home, their tree,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. It's very spooky, like something bad is going to happen or is happening in a parallel time, as if time could be parallel. But as a result, I mean, the difference is obviously if my kid was freaking out and that was there, I would still tend to my kid first. As a result of that, though, the bird takes off with it, drops it, they snag it, and it's like super, super creepy, right? And I like this discourse between dad and son where the grandpa is like, "Look, man, you got to tell people what's going on. We just took this eyeball off the floor, took it down into your crazy lab, and you're putting it in this green goo so that it's stabilized." Like, oh, and like, never mind the Vulcan nerve pinch he does to his daughter. Did you catch that?
Yes, I did. Where he's like, "How'd you do that?" He's like, "Oh, science stuff." But by the way, so while the dad and son are talking, do you feel like, okay, so he's like, put it in here that way, like if they put in that green goop, what's that called?
Like a stasis field, something like that is what he calls it. Like it's like stops it from doing stuff. Okay, so this is what you're talking about is how Grandpa, Roland, and semi-conscious Ray all go down to the basement with the eyeball, put the eyeball in the green goop. We get the perspective from the eyeball looking back at Roland in green, which is really cool how he chose to do that to indicate that. But on that panel, he's talking about the eye, and he says the nanoborgs are replicating nerves and neurons at an exponential rate, along with an awareness and mobility that continues to impress me. And Francis and Peter have him say that last part while he's looking directly at the eye, which implies to the reader that that eye is aware and mobile. But
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And it's a cool transition to the 25th century and Reyna interfacing with something that requires like to scan her one remaining eye.
Because that is actually literally Reyna's eye. Which I would just like to give myself kudos that from the very beginning I was like, that eye's bad news.
And this is where there's more questions because we transition to this like future scene where there's a bunch of cityscape it's like overgrown as if nature retook it in the 25th century, and she's doing some sort of time scan and she's looking for visible items, clothing, search for those like irregularities that would make them stand out, I guess, in the time stream. And she's doing it with a device that's connected to her mask, her helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see there that, yes, she is missing an eye, though, and it's connected to that, too. So, like, is there actually some significance to what that specific eye can somehow connect through to the time stream? And because here's the question then, is it goes
Why does
back,
he have the eye?
why does he have the eye, but why does he seem not to know it's her eye?
Maybe he does. And maybe he's not telling them.
Well, if he does, then his whole thing is keep it in the stasis field, otherwise she could see you. Because what we're saying, Ghost Machine fans, is that if that eye is Reyna's eye, it looks as though this peripheral setup she has to scan the time stream for irregularities, and it says, and triangulate through all time zones, is connected also to that actual eye. And also that part of her skin is kind of rotting around it too, by the way. So there's something there. But like, so the eye that they have actually does feed back to her somehow visibly. And as a result of it coming out of that, like you can see the bird, you can see the crayons, you can see the house. So it's indicating like stuff in the kids' room. It's indicating she was able to see what the eye could see when the eye was not in the green goo.
Yeah.
And I feel like Roland would not. I feel like his family would know. He must not know that that's her eye. And if he does know, and that's his whole thing at the end of this issue where he's like, I'm going to explain this, then I, like his family, I'm going to want an explanation, sir, about that secret. Like, that's crazy, dude. That means that, like, you know that the thing hunting you can literally find you at any time if it comes out of this green stuff. So, like, let's get some more green stuff, man. You
know? And also be a little bit more protective of making sure it's not lost.
Yeah. Like 8 million things. I could go on and on. But I don't think he knows it's her eye. And if he does, I don't think he knows she can see them. No, because he says that. He says it can see, it is aware, all this stuff. I don't think he knows it's Reyna's. I don't think he does because of his mindset. But as any good story does, when readers get a little too fixated on a detail, you got to help us move on. And it does do a good job of that by finding that there's like some sort of weird connection inside of the bird and inside of Ray. And
well, I mean, it could be little nanobots.
Well, that's what he says. He's like, Ray's headaches and future vision might all coincide with the bird and the eye being in her room, which is why I think we need to get a look inside of both of them and figure this out fast. We know that's not true because she had some visions when they first left, like right before they went into the portal. That was the first time we saw her do like creepy vision girl thing. Mm-hmm. So we know that's not necessarily what gives her that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it, like, because it clearly shows they like scan them both and they both have some sort of like flowy, creepy looking thing in it that looks like the sinew and muscles that are hanging off of the eye.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they have this serious moment because he's like, I have this gun, and the dad's like, the military dad soldier background is like, that's a shatter weapon. It'll reduce her to atoms. And so he's like, no, you can alter the frequency, blah, blah, blah. So he's going to like make this really like powerful super pistol into a way, way more chill, like use it to get these things out of there, make it like a mini sound gun. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they want to get the tendrils or whatever that are in the ear canals of both Ray and DeBird to come out of Ray and DeBird.
Right.
But, well, they're only focused on Ray, but
I do love this huge splash page of like how once the gun is shot, or I guess it's like a pulse thing, keeps on going, whatever, science. I love this splash page, like how it shows like basically what I would assume to be like waves of energy taking, the creepy crawlies out of the bird and Ray.
really cool lettering too from Rob with triple V, quadruple M.
I like it.
As it blasts the creatures. And so I guess we don't know if they're creatures, but they seem to be organic. We know it's organic matter because that's mentioned later, but the things jump out of Ray and the bird's ear canals or whatever.
And then they become one.
And they become one. And like he even refers to it, he's like, it just took off like some kind of freaky spider.
Now, what I'm going to say is I love how everything happens after this because it is like calamity. It was very chaotic.
Very chaotic, very cinematic. This is something that we've seen before in this series where they do a great job with the pacing for the buildup of two events that are going to like collide, I guess you could say, because Roland and Rodney are like, it ran away. Oh my gosh. And then they go to find it and they find that Rex has already grabbed it. But then our new friend, Mr. Martinez, the neighbor, goes over there and starts knocking on the door, and he can hear in the inside because of all of it, just a really cool like action panel of the dog and the tendrils and the breaking. Rob does such a great job of the dog barking and smashing into the wall.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, but then the way that Francis puts this together is he flips the camera around so that you have the opposite perspective of Mr. Martinez just way in the background. He's peeking his head in through the opening of the door. And then you can see all the chaos. Like you can see that Rex has gone around the entire room with this thing and they're trying to get him to stay still. But even then, it reminds me of a face hugger from Aliens. This thing just, as soon as Mr. Martinez is there, vulnerable, the thing grabs him by the face.
And stays on.
Yeah, it made me wonder, well, you kind of know what happens, right? Which we'll get to in a second. I think I know what was going to happen if they let it go. But
I like how it stays on through every other Rockefeller arriving home. And it's just hey, how are you? How was your day?
Right. And that's exactly what happens because Mom comes home and it's, oh, hey, how are you doing? Why don't you join in the fight? And Richie's on the way home and there's all these cool, and it's so funny. In one panel, you get like multiple teenage references between the technology and like, I think it's probably Pokemon cards or rare cards or something that they're talking about. And he gets to the house and then he gets the same perspective as the door opens, but now Mom's there too. This was this panel, I'm talking about Ghost Machine fans, the one when Richie gets home. Ray's still asleep. So Rodney's holding Mr. Martinez. The dog's got the full Mr. Gadget legs out. And then Mr. and Mrs. Rockefeller are on the right now. She's jumped into the fight. And she even asked like how school was. Like when Richie comes in. Yeah. Clearly they need help. And that panel to me is a movie poster or something. You know what I mean? Like that would be the cover to this story. If it was a TV show, that would be the image that you would see. I just think that's awesome.
Agreed.
It's not the last one because then Ray wakes up, comes in, same perspective, but now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 Rockefeller family members and a super dog all trying to get the face hugger off the face of Mr. Martinez.
Well, and then Ray gives Richie the idea to use his boots.
She does. That makes you wonder if, like, she knew that's what he had to do, kind of thing.
Oh, I did wonder that. But then it's like so interesting how the neighbor is just not even like trying to think about, he's like putting all these odd things together. And then he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm in the witness protection program. You guys must be too. Instead of going straight to what, like the looks on their faces before his reveal was like, oh my gosh, does he know that we're from not this time? But he just assumes that they're hiding out as well because that's what he's doing.
Right. He says he's in the actual witness protection program, and they're kind of like, we're in a similar program, but it's got a different spin to it. Let us talk about this and we'll come back and touch base with you. And he makes a point of saying that he won't talk about any of this so that everybody stays protected, and that he understands family, and like he's kind of like mobster-esque like things. And if you've ever
Don't
seen,
you think it's funny that he's hiding out from probably actual family, like if it was mobster stuff, but so are they. They're hiding out from a family member who's trying to get them as well.
time mobsters. I was waiting for either Mr. Martinez to become something funny or always just be the butt of jokes. And I think that this is an awesome angle to turn with him on. So I dig it. I'm all about that. Then we do see though that they got it off, and in the process it all went onto the bird. And now the bird has specifically the bird Rachel refers to as Borganic. Why is Ray's bird Borganic, which is cyborg and organic? I'm assuming is what that means in their time.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears that Roland, when looking at it knows what it is. And as a result of that, he's about to explain things to his family. But I'll tell you, on this last page, when he says, okay, Rach, I owe it to you all to tell you everything, that makes me worried that he made a bad decision and he should have shared some information earlier. So I hope it's not that bad. I hope it's just Phil Dunphy bad. I hope it's not hey man, you know, that was a big boo-boo bad.
I'm sure it was just Phil Dunphy bad.
Yeah. I feel like that's an appropriate parallel to draw with this particular series.
Yeah.
And we did get a cool bio for Ray, which indicates a couple of quick things: that she connected deeply with her aunt, Raina, on an emotional level. She also was primarily raised by her grandmother, Rose, because her parents were so busy. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense.
And it is kind of cool that they make a point that she adapts well to the current era and eats the food and all that type of stuff. So, and she's very nature aligned. So neat and interesting, because it's ooh, you connect deeply with Raina on an emotional level, or did. That's one that I want to know more about right there, right?
Oh, for sure.
But show. All right, so that's our first issue in this fantastic double deep dive. Now we have to turn a corner and walk down a different road with a different tone and a different vibe, if you will. And that's because we're talking about Hyde Street. The most recent issue, number 7.
Covers were on point for this one.
You sound very enthused. Tell us about this.
So should I do them in order of which ones I liked the most, or what?
Sure, do that.
So obviously, cover D was the first Sean Von Gorman Ghoul-Grains. It's a 1 in 20 cover, and it's so good. If I'm a comic book fan, I am buying all 4 of these covers. And we already did the spoiler at the beginning. I do really love how it ties to that there was a comic strip on the back of his cereal box when in the beginning of the comic that he was reading. So that was pretty awesome. But what were your thoughts, Nick Wilson? Dr. Jelly and Mr. Peanut Butter.
And it's a 1 for 20 variant of the 7th issue of a new series. That means in order for your local comic book shop to get one, they have to order at least 20 copies of one of the other standard covers. That means there's probably not going to be a ton of these around. Hyde Street is a popular series. A lot of people are buying it. A lot of shops are stocking it. However, that's a number that, who knows how many there may be per shop, even at the biggest shops that order maybe 100 of this issue because they got however many on people's pull lists, and then they're going to put it on the shelf and then have some to put in the box. Still, that's not a ton. So that makes me really curious how many of these will be out there. But it's super cool. It's the first, like you said, of the Ghoul Reigns cereal box covers. And I love it. Mr. Peanut Butter and Dr. Jelly. It's a reference to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Then we got the C cover. I need to be very clear. A, B, and C covers are all great. I just love this C cover. It's Danny Mickey pencils with Brad Anderson, and I just love how it's half evil Pranky, which kind of reminds us of the set of covers for Ghost Machine #1. It just looks so cool.
It's really cool. It appears to have been penciled by Danny Mickey, which is really, really neat. Don't see a lot of that. You always see him inking for Yvonne, and that was really neat. And the covers you're talking about are back the Ghost Machine #1 primer book preview issue thing that came out. That one had multiple covers of 2 different Hyde Street sets of characters. One looked like the normal way. The other was a really upside down evil demon looking version of them all. And so this reminds me of that. But yeah, it's really neat. Danny Mickey, man, on pencils. Very cool.
Even one of Pranky's badges, you see it says "Be Scared," and then it has Anderson on the hanging off the patch. I don't know. I just really like that one. Now we'll go in order because I do like both A and B. So the A cover by Ivan Rice, Danny Mickey, and Brad Anderson. It's just Pranky setting that trap for the monster. But it looks really good. Color is amazing. Where it's creepy and spooky in the background with the monster back there.
The matinee monster coming through the forest. And it's one of those big old bear trap looking ones, with the big old metal clink when you set it. And this one, Yvonne pencils, Danny inks, right? So Danny drew cover C and he inked cover A as well.
Why don't you tell us about the B cover?
That one is a little different. It's really cool. It's an artist that I'm not familiar with named Geraldo Borges. And it is Mr. X-Ray sitting at a desk with Pranky sitting next to him on the same desk. Kind of looks like his office, but you don't see any of the knickknacks. And there's a whole bunch of dead people all over the place. And Pranky is brandishing a slingshot, which implies that all the people that died are as a result of his efforts with said slingshot. So I dig it. I also think that Geraldo Borges' work is gorgeous. So way to go. Welcome to the party, Geraldo.
Yeah, it looks great. So as previously discussed, the book starts out with a funny little comic strip that's on the back of the cereal box. Pranky's reading the back of the cereal box, and it ties in with the cover D. It's awesome.
It is awesome because that's also where we see the witch and the creature in the Black Lagoon that we're going to see on some of the other covers. And the whole message of it is that the doctor's going to drink, Dr. Jelly's going to drink the formula to make sure he doesn't turn into the crazy Mr. Peanut Butter. And they're like, no, you don't need to do that because we aren't complete without your craziness, essentially, right? And it's about they're in a sense that with them, it's because you get the vitamins and minerals and stuff. But it points out at the end, inside every box is a Ghoul Grains figure, which is an integral part to what happens next. And then we see the actual cereal box covers, though. We see Sugar Scream Creature Crisp, and Dr. Jelly and Mr. Peanut Butter. We see 3 of them in the comic because Pranky is holding them on this awesome, mostly splash page, top 3/4 deal of a 2-pager that Yvonne has going on with so much detail.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And true to form, he eats a bunch of the cereal, and then he's got in there, there's a figure and Mr. X-Ray, who's narrating, says that for Pranky, finding the figure in there is transformative, and it is a figure of Mr. Peanut Butter. So it's like, And then he gets ready to go on a hunt, because this whole deal was he's hunting for the matinee monster. He's mad at Oscar because Oscar gypped him out of some of his, the souls he was going to damn or whatever. And he's going to hunt Oscar down. And so he gets books, which is like literally the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It looks like a copy of that, or a graphic novel of it. He's got weapons, he's got a shotgun, he's got traps, toys, weapons. That's the criteria. It sounds like, though, he needs something with more of a bite than the trick gum he uses. And so his plans are to break into Mr. X-Ray's office.
I am so intrigued with where this is going to head, because he grabs a mask, which we don't get to hear until the end of the story, but he's like, he took another novelty from me, but he forgot to read the fine print. So we know there's going to be something about that mask that he took later on.
Yeah, I was curious. I like the foreshadowing there, because it's just in the panel where he gets the mask, the panel right before it, we see the mask on like a mannequin head or whatever. And then it's the panel where he's actually grabbing it, where it says, but he forgot to read the fine print. And then, like, man, something's going to happen to that kid for that. But not right now, because he goes back to following his compass, which I think the point is that it kind of leads you to the Matinee Monster's castle, but nobody really knows how to exactly get there. But en route in the deep woods, he like runs into what seems like random dude that's stumbling upon Hyde Street or whatever. But the guy says he was in the park, I guess.
He's like, I've been wandering around here for hours, which means that he's been in the Matinee Monster's grasp on, wherever the monster's at. Like, he was sent to that part of Hyde Street probably for the Matinee Monster to deal with.
And so, whether intentionally or not, we do know he was in the park in the real world. We do get a sense that for everybody, they hit a certain point that then pushes them over the precipice onto Hyde Street. So for whatever reason, this final act that we learn what he was doing in the park is what did that. And so whether intentional or not, he's landed in the ethereal territory of the Matinee Monster, because he's near his, region or whatever of Hyde Street, I guess. Right?
That would be what I would assume.
Yeah, because he goes back to, he gets rid of the random dude. He's like, get out of here. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I don't care. Somebody else can deal with you. I don't have time. He even says, like, somebody will deliver you. And he's like, what are you talking about? Type of thing. But he sets his traps and whatnot. Guy pops back up. And it's interesting because it's essentially reiterating the mechanics of Hyde Street. Because he tells the guy to go away and to scram, because he's trying to focus on hunting the Matinee Monster. Guy shows up in just a few minutes, but for him it's been days, and it's just obviously like he's just stuck there because nobody is damning him, but he's on Hyde Street. But I guess he, for whatever reason, he feels like he's good bait, and I guess he is good bait for the Matinee Monster, because he decides to string him up, and he's got guns and the whole deal, where he's just got him waiting in his sights. I love how when he's getting all of his stuff out of his backpack, you see those gold grains boxes again on the stump there.
Also, does he have like a Mary Poppins backpack?
Oh, you mean because you don't know how the gun fits in there?
And 3 boxes of cereal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That it must be a bag of holding, as our friends in Dungeons and Dragons would say. Yeah, that's absolutely, that's actually a really good point, because that makes sense why that Yvonne had drawn that in such a way when he was putting it in there that it was clearly too long, but it was going in. So that's pretty cool.
I like that.
And just one of the coolest, if not the coolest, rendition of the matinee monster yet, and Rob's just awesome monster roar as it comes tumbling through a tree, literally crushing a tree in half. It looks like almost Oscar just barrels through and go kind of looks like because his MO, remember, is to try to check him out and then like save him. That's what he did to the repentant Santa thief. And so he saves this dude from, at least he like moves him so he's not over the trap anymore, starts getting shot at. Frankie's shooting at him, and the coolest of cool excuses to draw some of the Universal monsters in like Yvonne's own way, a witch, Dr. Jekyll, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. He's got all three of the figures from the boxes. He hucks them and they become life size, and then we get to see them fight the matinee monster,
which I love. Dr. Jekyll or Dr. Peanut Butter, time to get nutty.
Yeah. Yeah, but just such incredible detail, because it looks like a witch, creature from the Black Lagoon, and Dr. or Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde, who that would be. And it made me want to read Yvonne drawing any just stories about old school monsters. That's how I just really like that. And follows suit perfectly, because they got Frankenstein, essentially, because they got the matinee monster, but they don't have a Wolfman. And so, right on cue, Frankie throws on a mask, and is this what you were expecting?
That it would stay on his face?
And make him fully transform, like full-on Wolfman.
No, I didn't think it would make him transform, but when I saw the eye thingy, I thought it meant that Mr. X would be able to control him.
Oh, the way that his eyes go in that angry werewolf red. Yeah, and it's a swirl. Yeah, that's fair. I would think that Mr. X-Ray gets some advantage over anyone who decides to take part in the use of his knickknacks. But as we recall, the whole point of this was so that he could be tougher, like, because he had gum. He's like, oh, I can't take out the matinee monster with gum, so I'll steal this mask and become tough enough to take him out with werewolf claws and abilities. And they're fighting, they're duking it out. You get this awesome roar from the monster, and you see him throw werewolf Pranky, so hard into this tower that he like knocks the tower over.
And when he knocks the tower over, Pranky finds basically a lot of dead kids.
Super bummer.
And then he's like, hey, pause, Oscar. I know I was trying to kill you, but we need to take a TV time out on that, because that creep is worth my time.
Maybe you can't see it like I can, but it's all around us. Do you smell that? Dead kids in shallow graves, and he dug them. And I really loved that turn of events, right? Because essentially, if you remember what happened with that Santa guy, they didn't get to have a dialogue about the guy. The matinee monster just jumped in, got in the way, and saved the Santa guy in what seemed to be a moment for Santa where he recognized what he did that was wrong. My assumption is that if the matinee monster were to give that type of a moment to this guy named Ethan, that you can't just say, yeah, all these kids I killed, that was just wrong. So I'm assuming he wouldn't save him. However, it doesn't seem as though the matinee monster is concerned with attempting to do so after Pranky explains that the most recent dead child is literally dude's neighbor, and that made her another kid on a milk curtain because he killed a bunch of these kids.
Like, you see Pranky like actually kind of crying.
This is big. This is pretty significant character development for the character of Pranky. And it's ironic because this is the same person that wants to remain in Hyde Street so they can continue damning souls. And they've even requested to be given worse souls. He said to the scorekeeper before, like, come on, don't just send me these knuckleheads. I want to deal with really bad people that deserve it. And so he's found a purpose in continuing to do this because he's vastly exceeded the quota that he needed to hit in order to be eligible to depart. He specifically says, I don't like people who hurt people, especially people who hurt kids. The ones who survive, they turn out like me. So he recognizes that he's a product of his experiences and his environment, and that the two of them are monsters, but neither of them chose to be. It's like deep thoughts with Ghost Machine. The most reprehensible thing, the guy that they're like damning now says they were all foster kids. No one wanted them, but they wanted me. And then, oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about that guy anymore.
Yeah, well, he got his leg basically beaten up or eaten up by that bear trap. And then it looks like he got a taste of all the monsters.
Yeah, and Pranky does point out that the scorekeeper will do worse than anything that they will do to him, even though it looks like they're about to tear him to shreds. And it's neat. This is just an awesome line. He says, it turns out I like monsters when he's standing in front of Mr. Peanut Butter, the witch, and the Black Lagoon creature. Not your kind.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
It's like, yeah, I like people that are cool and different and strange, but not evil or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Pretty neat. And Excellent. Then I love this fourth wall, like whatever it is, like it's not breaking it, it's like peering through it or whatever, because we get an ad. If you have a kid like Pranky, you need a tasty cereal and therapy. That's funny. Like this old school commercial style. And the next one is because you see that bug cover. That's the one guy that we didn't see amongst those monsters,
I know.
That's neat because then the ad for those other 1 for 20 variants, which are the next several covers, you're going to have Sugar Scream with the witch, Creature Crisp with the creature from the Black Lagoon, and Bugsy Berry with a dude that looks like the Jeff Goldblum fly. And it indicates all the FOC dates and the release dates on the bottom of those cutout coupons. I don't think you actually have to cut those coupons out, but more power to you if you do.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Another awesome issue of Hyde Street. Definitely a new wrinkle in Pranky, because now you gotta get a sense of not truly an evil fella, and is there some sort of relationship that could be grown between him and the matinee monster unexpectedly. Pretty neat.
Maybe.
Not where we expected it to go.
No,
but very excited about the series. Would love to hear if you got your hands on any of those 1 for 20 Mr. Peanut Butter covers. For sure. Let us know. Shoot us an email at ghostmachinefans@gmail.com, which is precisely where you can contact us if you would also like to contribute to our listener mail section, which we are going to talk about right now.
And it's our fantastic mail section.
It is our fantastic mail section. I forgot about the proper nomenclature. Snoggle, would you like to read this very brief, fantastic mail?
Listener mail. Jen asks, will Ghost Machine be at SDCC? I'm going to assume that stands for San Diego Comic-Con.
San Diego Comic-Con is coming up. It's in July, in like a month or so. I think like exactly a month from when this episode airs. It appears that Ghost Machine will be present. They will have a booth. I took a look at the convention map, and they're going to be right there on the main drag in the middle, or one of the heavily trafficked areas, it looks like. So that's really cool. Like many of the folks that are going to be in attendance, they have not announced their creators appearing in the lineup yet, but that should be coming any day, any minute, I imagine, pretty soon. Most of those folks are getting that info out 2 to 3 weeks prior to showing up. And we definitely will hear more about it very soon. But the good news is, Jen, thanks for emailing in, by the way, that Ghost Machine will be present at San Diego Comic-Con in 2025.
Very exciting.
Very exciting indeed. And if you want to check out all of our other exciting content, you can do that by going to www.ghostmachinefans.com, where you'll see all of our different social networking platforms. Also, make sure that if you go to our Instagram, by far the busiest place to find any updates and news and fun things from us, is our Discord address. The link to that, we'd love you to come hang out, chat. There's a lot going on over there. We're up to over 50 or 60 members now who are chatting in all the cool different rooms that Flashy Transition put together from Reddit. So also make sure to check out the Reddit, and the link to the Discord's on the Reddit as well. We are still looking for contributors to the wiki. It would be awesome to have anyone out there who's interested in doing that. Shoot us a fantastic mail, and we'll let you know how to get more involved.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight on the Ghost Machine Fans podcast.
Podcast.